This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 291.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Ramsey Majaba, and I have a guest today by the name of Michael Shore. He's been on the podcast in the past as well, so I'll leave a link to his show in the show notes. And when we talked to him last, he was an SE manager at Oracle. And this is not Oracle is a very well-known company, very big company, and he decided to leave it and become a sales director. So he moved from sales engineering to pure sales at director level. He was a player coach. He will talk about that in a second. But one of the bigger things that we talk about are how we improve. What are the things to look at? If a lot of people want to go into sales. I talked to someone recently who wants to go into sales, but he feels so far removed from the sales process that he doesn't even know what is involved. He is a sales engineer. So what are some of the things to look at? Some of the things that surprised him. We talk a lot about it and a lot about sales, and we talk about what's going to be next for him, because sales is also not the end all be all. There are things beyond that as well. So let's jump into the show and talk to Michael Shore. Hey, Michael Shore.
Hey, Ramsey.
I don't know why I used your full name.
Well, just like my mom.
Oh, when she's angry at you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice. Well, welcome back to the show. You've been a guest in the past. I'll leave a link to that show in the show notes below. But for those who don't know you, can you provide a brief description about who you are?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I've got been in technology 16 years. As far as my SE career, I was a sales consultant or SE for Oracle started about 10 years ago, and then I moved into SC management. And that's, Ramsey, where you and I had a chat 3 years ago as a that role. And then since then, I moved into a sales role, so as enterprise sales director for a construction software company.
You say you went into a sales role. Was it a sales role or was it a sales leadership role?
So it was a combination. So as a player coach, so
Okay.
I was responsible for within this software company. I was responsible for going after new uh, uh, enterprise sales or enterprise organizations.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. You First off, how did you get into sales engineering or solution architecting?
Yeah. So I mentioned like when I first kicked off my career, I was immediately kind of put into technology. So I learned a project management software called Primavera, and so I was like training and implementing that software, and then through acquisitions and through various network that I developed over time, I ended up working for Oracle. So Oracle acquired Primavera, acquired some of the coworkers that I had worked with in the past, and so through that I ended up in the sales consulting space. So I took that professional services to SC realm.
All right. And then you got into leadership, which is last time, like you were on the podcast, you came in as an SE leader at Oracle, and then you moved. I was very surprised when I saw your update on LinkedIn that you moved from SE manager into sales director,
Right.
uh, even though it's a player coach role. What enticed you to go in that route?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm sure there's probably a lot of listeners out there that kind of similar situation I was in. I was in SC. I was always enjoyed the strategic part of it. I think Ramsey, you mentioned in the last podcast we talked about like account planning. Like that was something that always enjoyed being part of. So I always kind of thought about what would it be like for me to move into that sales role. And I had at the time I was going through a lot of change just personally. I was about to move. I moved from Denver to Tulsa. I was going through divorce. So it's just one of those things like when I make a change, I like to make it big. So, here's the time to make the move, go into sales. Um, and man, I'm glad I did. It's like one of those things I can remember at the time just being really concerned about, the risks I was taking as far as I was moving off the path I was on at Oracle, where I had like an opportunity to move up in leadership. And monetarily, I was taking a risk too, walking away from restricted stock units, all that kind of compensation component to it. But for the lessons I learned from it, and the things that I was able to test myself and do and learn about myself, was 100% worth it.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Usually, I've talked to a few people who've been through a divorce, and when they go through a divorce, they want minimal changes, and you went the complete opposite route, like change it all,
That's
like
right.
burn it to the ground, which is
That's right.
why, like other like the people I talk to are engineers who want the safety of engineering, and you kind of like nah, screw it.
Yeah, I could tell you like the logic behind it was I was thinking, okay, I'm going through this. I'm going to need something to like focus my time on, right? So going through my own personal stuff. So in order to kind of get through that personal stuff, I need something that work-wise I can be completely focused on.
Okay, all right. Well, from a compensation perspective, you said you took a big risk. Generally speaking, we all know that salespeople make all the good money, right?
Oh
All
yeah.
the big bucks is there. What do you mean you took a bigger risk by going from sales engineer where you don't make money to sales where you're obviously paid a lot more money?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you're paid a lot more money in sales if you make sales, right? So, yeah, I was taking a risk in that I was betting on myself being able to make the commission, make the variable component to it. Uh, you know, big shout out to Oracle. It is a phenomenal software organization, but they do a really good job with compensation. They compensate their they call them sales consultants. Their sales consultants extremely well. So for me, there was definitely no guarantee that I was going to make as much in my new sales role as I had made in the sales consultant role.
Okay. But it seems like it's worked out because you've stayed in that role for quite a bit of time. So the risk paid off, I would assume.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think like if I were to go back and advise myself on it, it's like I mentioned, like I was nervous about it, wasn't sure if it was going to be the right move for me. I think what I would do is I'd say first of all, absolutely do it. I think for any sales engineer, if you've got like the bug to move into sales, then you should take that risk. I mean, life's about the journey that we're on, lessons that we learn through it, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself by doing it. I think the what I would have prepared myself for is the sales role is very different from the SE role. And like the thing for me that kind of stands out more than anything is as an SE, generally speaking, you have your task or what it is that you're going to do that day assigned to you. You know what you're going to wake up and do. You're working on an opportunity, you're working on a demo, you have that assigned out to you. In the sales role, you don't have that. You have a lot more autonomy, but you got to figure out what it is that's the best task for you to do for that any particular day. And if you're a sales engineer that struggles with figuring out like what it is that you can do on your own to advance an opportunity, what it is you can do on your own to help with being strategic on an account, to build pipeline, then you're going to have to go through a big learning curve and move into the sales role.
Well, so here's the thing. I talked to someone yesterday who said he's very interested in sales, but he doesn't know what the salespeople do.
Yeah.
Right? As he see a little bit piece of what salespeople do, especially when you're covering like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 salespeople as an SE, and you're just basically doing the SE role, and you're not involved in any of the sales part. Uh, what advice would you give them? Like, would they be able to know what salespeople do so they can make that better decision? Because if they find out, they may hate it.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So So the advice I would give, number one is read a good sales book. Um, like just very fundamental sales book or good one on fundamental elements of sales is Mike Weinberg's got a book out there called New Sales Simplified. Anthony Iannaro's got a book out there. It's called like The Only Sales Book You'll Ever Need. So you could like just read a book, those two books, you get a really good understanding what sales is about. Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Bluck. Um, the other thing is if you're of that mindset, the other thing is you got to think about the company that you're going to be uh, moving into a sales role with. Do they have a defined sales methodology? Because if they do, then you're walking into something that at least you're going to have kind of like a framework for how to go about doing your job. Um, Another thing to kind of consider, I just found this out the other day, is that there's a website out there called Repview. So it's Repvue, which it actually scores sales organizations, gives you a good sense of what sales organizations have strong leadership, which ones have account reps that are actually making their quota, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because we always get that. Hey, your on target is 100K. On target base is 100K. On target is 500K, but then you never make more than 5% of quota or
Oh yeah,
something.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Review is pretty good. A pretty good site. Uh, Based on what you just said, there's one book I would recommend. Also, it's called The One Thing,
What? Okay.
which basically talks about what's the one thing you can do that will help you generate revenue. Like, what's your focus of the day, right? Because we all wake up and we have to-do lists that's like 10,000 pages. Which one of these items that you're on your list that's going to make you money, right?
I
Respond
lo-
to email is not a task that will make you money most of the time. Go ahead.
I love that because I can tell you like the struggle I had probably more than anything that again if I could go back and I could prepare myself for it. It wasn't finding stuff to do, it was finding the right things to do. Because I think, and also I hired an SE in part of my role, a guy who transitioned, so I was able to kind of see him go through this and me go through this. Shout out to him. He's a phenomenal rep. He made an amazing transition. But the challenge is when you're an SE, you're trying to solve a problem, right? You're trying to go in there, you're trying to show the overall capabilities of the system, you're trying to map it to the requirements. And so you can like really dig into any individual opportunity. And so as a rep, that can work against you because you can end up over engineering, spending too much time on an opportunity that you should maybe just let go to the wayside. So I definitely spent way too much time early on in that transition of trying to fit like a round peg into a square hole kind of thing, where I just thought that, hey, if I could went in there, configure the solution a certain way, if I just changed the messaging on the demo a certain way, that then I would win the opportunity. When
Yeah,
reality is there's so much more that goes into it.
yeah. I mean, like I agree. Finding stuff to do is so easy. Finding the right thing to do is I found it to be a life changer, right? Because one generates business, one solves problems, the other one keeps you busy.
That's right. Yeah, and I think like that's why like I always say like the really good uh, sales reps, there's always something a little bit different about them. They may not be like the best team player. They usually aren't the best team player because they're very focused on what it is that they have to do to get that deal done. And so that means that they won't show up to internal calls. They'll drive their manager absolutely bananas with like not following through on some of the, required training and stuff that you have to do internally, all that stuff. And as part of like a sales manager, you have to learn how to like deal with those personalities. But I'm telling you, it's always those. It's that type of personality, the one that just they know how to focus on the right things and they drive hard on it, that end up being successful in sales.
So, when you started your career in sales, how did you figure out what the right things to do were?
Yeah. So unfortunately, it was a lot of trial and error. So the company I moved to, it was very much a point solution for a very particular type of market. So it's a point solution for a heavy civil construction space. And so initially, I didn't have like a really good grasp on what it is that I needed to go after from a go-to-market perspective. So I left the markets I was going after way too broad. And then what I found was I was just losing opportunities, losing, and it was the same feedback every time, right? And um, even though like I tried to push things in the direction of a market that I understood really well, but the solution just didn't fit there. So the company wasn't set to support that. So then over time, I just learned to refine it, learned to change it, whittle down the market to the messaging that worked, figured out what it is I could better leverage the existing collateral that we had that was based on this market, and then was able to ramp it a lot better.
So one thing I want to like I admire about what you just said is the fact that you kind of figured out that you're going after a very broad market. Because a lot of salespeople we talk to, uh, if they're going if they're going for, like, let's say, not the right fit, and it obviously it's not the right fit, so they don't sell. What they end up doing is go for more of the wrong fit. Like they just do more. Like I just need to call more people.
Yeah,
And like that's the bane of sales engineers' existence, especially at startups. One of my clients was like, "Hey, I'm being called into so many different discovery calls, and I have to unqualify all of them." And I'm like, "All right, well, how about you create like what the perfect customer look like? What's the persona? What's the perfect customer?" And he's like, "We have that." Like, all right, bring it up compared to the customers that you're going after. It's like, "Oh, we're going after a totally different market." It's like, all right, well, share that with your salespeople. And as soon as he did that, and they figured out, oh, like sometimes they just need someone to tell them, like,
yeah.
this is not even our customer. Go find the right customer. It makes your life easier.
And they're doing themselves such a disadvantage. And here's like one of the things I learned in that process was it doesn't matter how much I know a particular market and how much I think the solution could fit in that. There's so much more that goes into the sales process. There's references, right? There's collateral that you need to if you're not selling a solution that's a perfect fit for the industry, there's going to be all these feature requests, enhancement requests that are going to come from it. So then you need to have the product team be behind that and understand that industry, right? And
Yeah.
like you're creating so much extra work for yourself by doing that as a sales rep. It simply isn't worth it. Like understand your target profile, like you're saying, and then just go hard after that. You're going to make your life
Yeah.
so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What you mentioned it earlier, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, it just will not work. Right. And yeah, if it's all feature requests, are you going to sell it today, or are they going to wait for you to put in the feature requests to actually get it done? So yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. And like listen, and like your job as a you're also out there as a salesperson. You're trying to get the trust of the customer. Your job, if you're doing it well, is you're gaining their trust, and then you're putting that on the line if you're selling them a solution that isn't yet ready, right?
yeah.
All the best intentions of the product team doesn't mean that they're going to be able to deliver on that, right? And so
But
you just got to
that
weigh that.
that's why I don't like the customer success model. I mean, customer success are very important, but if I, as a salesperson, I'm selling something and I convince the customer to buy the wrong product, and then I walk away as a salesperson, right? Because a lot of new companies, like SaaS companies, salesperson comes in, sells, leaves for the next opportunity, and the customer success takes over. And now the customer success is on hook to renew, but the salesperson sold the wrong thing to begin with. How are they going to renew? And why would it be the customer success person's fault?
Right, right, yeah.
And like what I've been advocating is the salesperson, whoever sold this product, should be on hook for the first renewal. If they don't renew the first time, then they sold the wrong product.
I like that. And that's actually how our model worked because we had an 18-month that you held onto the account.
Yeah,
What I would say about like going to new markets, because obviously companies do have to do that and you have to move it. It definitely shouldn't be driven by a sales person though, right? If there's a way to do it, and the right way to do it is that it's coming from leadership, and it's like, hey, we've identified this market as a good
Yeah.
market for us to go after. We're going to put marketing resources on it. We're going to commit to development around it. We're going to put SEs on it to help build out a good demo environment, and then you go after it, right?
Yeah. I agree with that. The one thing that I see is that people do that, but then if you get one demo request from a company, like a large company, let's say your target audience is mom and pop shops, and someone like Oracle then puts in a demo request, everybody's gonna drop everything and go after Oracle, right?
Right.
But if you have like multiple Oracles coming in, so you're all going after all these big companies, which is not your target audience, with the hopes of selling a big deal, but that means you have to reorganize, redo the software from scratch. Probably somebody else already has the software for that, and you're gonna lose the deal.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
what happens with sales, right? That's what I find.
Yeah, and especially enterprise sales, like you're talking about, like because there's such an opportunity cost to it. There's that time and effort, and again, like I just look at my own experience with it. Like there is, like I can look back on like two or three opportunities that I know at the end of the day we probably we lost it, and we probably never really stood a chance on it. But I was never able to identify that quick enough, you know. And going back now, obviously, I would be able to do that a lot quicker. But the amount of time and effort that was put into those two or three deals, it's just painful to think
Yeah,
about it. Like one of the companies, like I see their trucks driving around. I can't like it just makes me sick to my stomach when I see their trucks.
like that time could have been spent selling to like five mom and pop shops, which would have been half or not even a quarter of the deal, but you would have closed them.
Right. Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
very hard for salespeople to say no.
Right.
I've That's what I felt. It's like, especially when they're not like, especially if they have SEs who do the demos and like all that stuff, just do the demo.
Yeah.
So what, like, so yeah, they lean on that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd say, like just go about like the cool thing about being a rep, right? So like making this transition. I do think it gives you like if you do both sides of it, it gives you definitely a holistic view of like the customer journey through a sales cycle, like how you actually are able to generate pipe and how that leads to you getting new customers. It's something that I would never have had if I hadn't
Yeah,
done the role.
I see the roles as similar. Like SEs and sales is SEs are solving the problem technically. Sales are solving the problem commercially. They still have to highlight the value. Like this is why we have this contract. Right? This is why we do this way. This is why we have support this way. So we're
Right.
still solving the problem. We still should be trusted advisors. So I like sales. I've been in sales for 2 years now. Initially, I hated it, but I think the reason I hated it was because I didn't choose to be in it. If I had
Oh,
chosen to
interesting.
be in it, maybe I would have liked it. But now it's like it's growing on me. Like I own my business, right?
Yeah.
And especially in my world where I'm the only salesperson selling specific products to my territory, my boss can't even tell me what to do. Like he may provide advice, so he's taking more of a mentorship and coaching role than, hey, go talk to this person and sell that product because they don't know what product it is to sell. So I think their sales is just another version of sales engineering. It's just solving the problem commercially instead of technically.
Yeah. And you've got the right mindset for it, though. And I think a lot of people don't have that perspective of, hey, I enjoy owning my own business in essence. Like they may like the concept of it, but the day to day of what it takes to do it, I think it's a
Yeah,
struggle for a lot of people. Because to me, when I hired this guy as a SE into the role, I told him is like the most difficult part, and it's hard to even put into words. It's the mental aspect of it. It's very different. Because I remember as an SE, my biggest concern was not being like where I felt the worst was when I wasn't the expert in the room, right?
yeah,
And that rarely happened. But on those times, I would feel down, right? It's like, okay, my demo didn't go well, clearly didn't get. But like in sales is different because you're constantly working through rejection. You're constantly running the roadblocks. You're fighting inertia all the time. So it's a different mental game.
Yeah, I find great salespeople are experts in finding the expert,
Yeah,
getting the right person at the right time on the right call. Because a lot of salespeople lead on like, I don't know how it was at Oracle, but you have generalist SEs. Some companies call them core SEs, uh, and then you have specialists behind them. Some salespeople just try to get the specialist all the time, and the specialist is always busy. So now they're pushing against each other. It's like, hey, you're kidding me on every opportunity that's not even qualified, and they lose that trust.
right.
So versus others get the specialists at the right time to come and talk to the right people, because sometimes we get the right person talking to the wrong people and it goes nowhere. So yeah, sales are specialists are specialists at finding specialists.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And I agree. I mean, like that's what I really enjoyed about the sales role was like being able to work like that internal network of people and like and then like the other part is like getting them excited about the opportunity. It's like I bring you in, Ramsey's like, all right, and I've qualified this. This is why this is like such a good opportunity, and kind of selling you on it, and
Yeah.
then you come in, and then you're pumped up about it, right? And then this becomes the thing that you're focused on.
Well, that's also another thing I see salespeople do is that they try to bring in specialists and not qualify the deal. So the specialist is coming in hesitant already. Whereas
Mm,
what you said, like, I've done the work. This is how much it could be. This is the problem. These are the problems that they're facing, right? If you could share that, at least they say, actually, we can't solve these problems, and you can just end it there. Or they're like, oh, holy crap, it's perfect for my solution. Yeah, let's jump on. Let's do this. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that goes back. Yeah, I think it just goes back to having like a good strategy. Account strategy, a good territory strategy. Like if you know the message you're trying to get in, the persona you're trying to sell to, I'm probably bringing you, Ramsey, to an opportunity that's going to be well qualified to begin with because I'm going after the right persona. I'm going to know the issues that they're trying to address as a company, and I'm going to do that before I even reach out. You know?
Actually, like you mentioned, my last podcast was about account planning. What were the role of sales engineers in account planning at your company?
So at Oracle, we were involved. It was like Oracle is a really interesting model. When I say interesting, just there's a lot of resources, so a lot of people involved in strategy, a lot of people you can pull from. But we would get involved in all of our quarterly business reviews. We would do a lot of uh, uh, we called like the Insight program. It's like a value selling program. So we get in building business cases and things like that. And as part of that, you had to create like a profile around this account. And so we bring in SCs to help with that. Most SEs struggle with that though, I found. So I think the podcast is excellent for that. Like I don't think most SEs have probably ever read a 10K and looked at the financial statements or gone on an earnings call for a company, but all that's publicly available. All that's going to enhance your demo, the value points that you're going to make. Um, yeah, I think that SEs definitely have a role in that, and they can probably offer, especially based off of previous experience, like a lot of good guidance for how to go after an account. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, typical. Uh, what about the other company that you worked for as a sales director? What was?
Yeah, so just I think it was like 6 months ago they just started the pre-sales function there. So it was brand new. I mean, before that, and it's a amazing company. Like it really understands the market well. It's been around since 1984, and and pretty much every salesperson that has that they've had in the company outside of myself and the person I brought on um, have uh, have come up through different roles into a sales function. So whether it's support or product management or professional services, so everyone knows the solutions pretty well whenever they go into the sales role. That's a great model. It's not a scalable model though, and so
Yeah.
that's where pre-sales comes into play. We were starting that function so then the organization could scale and bring in more quota carriers.
Yeah. I mean, even if the salesperson knows how to do their own demo, I'd much rather have SEs do it, and the sales going out and find a new opportunity because preparing demo is time consuming and
Yeah, yeah,
doing it right.
exactly. Yeah, and it depends on the market too. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit it's easier to do that in a inside sales
Yeah.
environments, SMB market. Very difficult on the enterprise side.
Um, is there anything that surprised you when you took on the sales role?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest surprise to me was just the mental component of it. Like just it's hard to describe it other than like I know that each day it was like these ups and downs. Each opportunity, I get like every opportunity that closed, there was at some point that I thought I was going to lose it. You
Why?
know? It's just like it's just that the cycle of sales. You get into for example, you get into procurement, and of course they're always going to, as part of negotiation, try to use you against others, and they're going to tell you they're going to walk away, and you just have to mentally be strong and be prepare yourself for that. But you just go through these ups and downs because even though you know they're playing a game, mentally there's a part of you that thinks, well, maybe they're not, right? And maybe I'm going to lose this, or maybe I said the wrong thing on this, and the whole thing's going to fall apart. Right? And so I would go through these ups and downs and be like, just not cut out for this. To then, the next day I'd be like, man, I'm the best salesperson in the world. Like I'm incredible at this.
Yeah, especially like when it's uh, when it's quota driven, right? Like I don't control the quota. Someone gives me quota, right? And like let's say we're in a recession right now, or at least not a great market. I've hit quota every year for the last, I don't know, since I started being in SE. I've been around like almost at quota, if not higher, most of the time. This last year has been crap, and this last year has made me think I'm really bad at my job,
Yeah.
right? Which is very interesting considering like I spent 10 years doing this and I'm great at my job. This 1 year is like, am I good at my job? Right?
Well, exactly. And that's what like I think a good sales leader, a good sales manager is is extremely valuable because they're going to help you through that, right? Because the reality is like, no, you don't suck, Ramsey,
Well,
but maybe you sucked yesterday, because you didn't do the right things and you had a
yeah,
crap demo, but
but
you're
yeah,
not.
yeah. It's like something about if you have more good days than sucky days, you're usually a good SE, right? The more good days comparison to sucky days, but you will always have a sucky day here and there. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
As soon as my manager said like, "Hey, you're top three in the team," it's like, "All right, cool, I'm good." Right? Uh, it's like, damn, I'm not top first, top one. It got competitive, especially with one of my friends. Uh, and
Well,
you
that's
also,
it. That's the beauty of it, man. That's the beauty of sales. And I mean, you name it. Any sales, revenue generating, performance driven role is that. Like you could be on a high today, and tomorrow you could just be middle of the pack. So you're
yeah,
always going to have to challenge yourself. You're always going to have to be out in front of it. You're always
yeah.
going to have to be learning new things.
I,
Um,
Michael Jordan had bad games, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely. And
I'm
and
not.
I think that's a huge risk though for sales engineers. I know looking at a time that where I was managing the team is that like sales engineers, I think again it's a different mindset for the most part. I don't want to broad with it, or I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but generally speaking, the motivation is you want to be the expert in the room. You want to be recognized as the expert.
Yeah, but also like SEs have bad days. SEs get into the situation where they walk out of a demo thinking they did the best thing ever, and then they lose the deal. They don't know why. Did I even talk about the right thing? Was it money? Did I not share the value? So I think SEs see that same thing, just maybe to it's less of a roller coaster
Yeah,
ride than for salespeople. It's more
yeah,
exaggerated for sales.
yeah. And I totally agree. But I mean, the point with like like being the expert in the room is that can actually lead you to be stale to a degree.
Yeah,
Like, for example, if there's a new product that comes out or you acquire a new company, you're not going to be the expert in learning that new product right away, right? And so for
yeah,
sales managers, it's like this, you tend to get comfortable in the thing that you know? And so you're going to have those bad days when you push yourself, you try to learn that new thing, and you try to, get
yeah.
in it, and it's totally worth it, right? It's worth the experience. It's worth challenging yourself, but it's a hurdle for I think a lot of SCs to overcome.
Yeah, I agree. You also mentioned that you're a player coach. So my question was, how was it being a player coach? But let's just maybe provide a better question. It's like, what are the pros and cons of being a player coach?
Yeah. So the pros for sure is that you're like living the same experience that your team's going through, right? So day to day, you're trying tactics to whether it's outreach tactics, whether it's how you use in your lead gen person, how you're thinking about using marketing. Like you're going through and you're trialing stuff that your team's trialing at the same time. So it's like real useful, immediate feedback that you can provide or you can get, or you can take what they're doing and apply it to yours. I think the disadvantage of it is probably twofold. One is it creates um, it's two different mindsets basically. Like there's one mindset where as the player it's about you, it's about winning the thrill of winning the deal, right? Where as a coach it's the thrill of having your team win something, having your team become an expert on things, having your team strategically go after something, and it's a different kind of motivation. But there's also the part when you're doing player coach role, it creates conflicts of interest too by the nature of it. It's like you're working with a set number of resources, so determining who gets those resources can become a challenge if like you're taking them for yourself when that could be used for your team, right? So you got to balance that conflict of interest and makes it creates a challenge to leading.
Did you have your own like individual quota and then a team quota?
Yeah, so we had so I was I and models changed over time, but I had my own quota and then like an expectation for the quota from the team.
That's like I don't know why company. Maybe you have an opinion about that. A lot of companies are trying to get too complicated with quotas. Like previous companies, like they wanted to incentivize the sales of a specific product, so they gave us a quota specifically to that product, and then a quota for the rest of the product. And if we don't hit quota for both, we can't. Let's say product A, I have a quota on this, and then everything else. If I make
Yeah,
enough from product B, C, D, and F to make up for whatever quota I was missing for product A, I'd still consider not have made quota.
right.
Right. And
Yeah.
or hey, for if you're less than 50% of quota, you get paid 0.5% of your commission, and then you get paid. It's just people are getting it too complicated. I find.
Well, I think yeah, it like I guess two things on it. One is like on the player coach, I just would never recommend doing it unless you absolutely have to. I don't think it's generally speaking a good model. But there's a lot of good reasons why we did it. So I'm not faulting what I did before. We had a good reason for why we went that way. But it's a model like if you had a choice, I would avoid doing a player coach model. I think on the quota and how quotas come is derived. I understand the complexity of it, especially for like a legacy business, and you're trying to like change, you're trying to incentivize certain behavior from sales reps. I totally get that component to it, but I 100% agree with you. What I think a lot of times leaders try to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we want to maintain the revenue on these legacy systems, but we want to incentivize them to do this, and then it just becomes way too confusing, right?
Well, well, the way to confusing it's sometimes not good at incentivizing. For example,
Yeah,
previous company, we sold hardware and they wanted to switch to software. So they wanted to go from a perpetual model where customers pay once and then they pay warranty to a subscription model. And they wanted us to, so like let's say uh, hardware would cost $500,000, software would cost $20,000. Right. So already as a salesperson, I want to sell the $500,000 thing, then sell the $20,000 thing. Right. So they say, all right, how about you bundle it and make it a 3-year subscription? Do a bundle and sell just more like longer time frames. All right, cool, let's do that. But you only get paid for the first year.
yeah,
It's like, are you trying to incentivize me or not? Like, because you just made it from 20,000 to 60,000, it's still not 500,000, and you're only paying me for 20,000, and what the other 220,000 per year are free for you, right?
right,
Um,
right,
Sometimes
right.
I feel like they don't think about all these things when they come up with compensation strategies. I need to get someone who. There are companies that actually offer that as a service, like software. Catapult, I think, is one of them.
It's
Uh,
like as far as like coming up with like good compensation models.
or software, yeah, the compensation models and
Yeah.
software to track that because it's getting too complicated for an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh yeah, oh for tracking it. Oh for sure, yeah. Um, yeah, no, I think the thing that I would just encourage, like if you're having a challenge with like the compensation model, is like understand where the company's looking to go, and then you can if you're selling something that is where you know the company's looking to go, depending on size of the company, it's probably very different at Oracle or Cisco than it would be at a startup or like a medium-sized company. But there's probably a lot of things you could do from a compensation perspective to get compensated well if you're selling the things that the company wants you to sell.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. The company has to agree to it too.
yeah,
So, out of curiosity, I know you're no longer in that company. What's next for you?
yeah. So, yeah, I'm fortunate. I'm at a point where I can kind of take a look and figure out what I want to do next. Until the money runs out. But I know for sure one of the things that like I've been just reflecting back this probably happened about 6 months ago, but one of the things that I'm very focused on right now is no matter what my next role is being investing in the community that I live in. So I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ramsey, are you familiar with Oklahoma at all?
I've been there once. I've been to
Okay.
Tulsa
Okay.
once.
You've been to Tulsa. Okay. Yeah. 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 So I think I know my perception when I moved here. It's probably like for a lot of Canadians, like Saskatchewan, like very flat plains.
Yep.
Well, the eastern part of Oklahoma is not that way at all. Actually, Tulsa is it's a very pretty spot. Rolling hills, Ozark Mountains are right over here. So it's actually a really nice area to live. And because of that, we're starting to see a lot of people move to this area and it's starting to burgeon as a tech hub. And so I really want to be a part of that. I think to me, that's just like one of those things. I've always worked remote, always done selling, software where it's not really a tangible thing. My kids, for example, have no idea really what I do, no matter how many times I explain it to them. They really don't understand what I do. And they've never met anyone I've worked with except for virtually. So I'd love to be connected locally in the community. Um, Tulsa, like I said, it's got a lot of great stuff going on. If you're working remote and you're looking for a place to move to next, in Tulsa, we've got this burgeoning tech hub. We just got $75 million to invest in the local area on autonomous technology, drone technology, things like that. So you're going to see a lot of tech companies start to invest here. And on top of that, like if you were to move here, you actually get paid $10,000 to do so. So there's a program called Tulsa Remote where you can come here, buy a house for $250,000 because the cost of living's low. You get paid $10,000 to move here. You get access to like a really cool co-working space called 36 Degrees North. There's there's a group here called Techlahoma that's helping connect technology professionals with skills training and with technology organizations for jobs. There's Tulsa Innovation Labs that's running some cool things around drone technology. I went to a conference they had a couple weeks ago, talk about all different drone sites that are being built in the area. So anyway, all to say, I want to continue to invest here because I think this is like really an area that's going to take off. And then outside of that, I just want to find, I think, I'm at the point where I've kind of learned what I'm good at. And so I want to kind of continue on that leadership side of things, helping out people, helping people invest in their careers, helping make them better SEs, SCX, something like that. Something in the more of a manager coaching leading role.
Do I need a visa to be able to move from Canada to Oklahoma? Go answer that. You're not a lawyer,
That's right.
but you told me on it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything I can do to help with that?
No, no. I mean, I think I appreciate this opportunity to come on and talk to you. I think this is helpful. And yeah, I mean, I think we just stay in touch, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, we still have one more section of the podcast. It's called the Not So Fire Round. These are the same 4 questions I ask almost every guest. I've changed them up since the last time you've been here. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Uh, so you were SE, sales, and now kind of in between focusing on helping people. What do you love about your career so far and where
Yeah,
it's going?
yeah. I think what I love about my career is that I've been able to do a big a full spectrum of things. Like I've been able to really understand how technology works in terms of like how it helps people change, helps organizations change how they make decisions and bringing it in. So I feel like it's given me a good understanding of how technology operates within the business spectrum. And probably the thing I'm proudest of is just like the connections I've made over time, like some really good friends that, I go travel to California, go hiking with a guy that I used to work with. I used to go travel and do different, I go to a new city, and I have someone there, if it's a major city in North America that I've either worked with or been connected with in some way that I can meet up with and we can talk shop and catch up on life.
Okay, cool. The next question on the not so fire round is you already mentioned you figured out what you're good at. But if you were to pick one, what would be your superpower?
Yeah, I think it's coaching for me. I think it's understanding, where someone's at, what it is that they need to kind of get them to the next level.
I like that. All right, question number 3. Uh, how do I? Well, I always ask about a book or resource. You already mentioned like 2 or 3 of them. Uh,
Well, I do have one that's like totally not
yeah, please.
business related. I'm actually listening to it right now. I do audiobooks a lot more than I do actually reading them, but it has nothing to do with business, but it's called 13 Days in September. So if you're like with everything going on in Israel right now, if you want to have a really good understanding of the history there, both from religious perspective, the perspectives of the Palestinians and Israelis, 13 days, and then also like how to complete a complex negotiation. This book is amazing because it's all about the Camp David Accords, the historic peace treaty between Israel, U.S., and Egypt that happened in the 70s, and like how that negotiation happened and all the context and background behind it.
Okay. Lawrence Wright.
That's it. Yep.
All right, cool. I'll add that to the show notes. The last question of the not so fire round, Mike, is what is there a habit you're working on today to improve in your personal or professional life?
Yeah, so for me, it's the learn something new every day habit. Like I found probably 2 years ago, um, I had a good friend who said that this was the thing that they decided to do. Because every day it was something that they don't understand or they don't know. So it could be uh, something related to, a feature within the software that you work with. It could be, a whole new you know, perspective. Napoleonic Wars, for example. I've been learning a lot about Napoleon recently, and you want to understand a little bit more. But it's like something that you don't know. Have a target of learning about it. That one new thing each day.
Okay, that's pretty good. All right. Well, if people want to reach out and connect with you, where can they do that?
So LinkedIn, yeah. So I'll provide if you don't have that, Ram, so I'll provide
Okay.
that to you.
I have
LinkedIn,
your LinkedIn.
that'd be the way to do it.
Awesome. Mike, again, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. I look forward to our next chat.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
And that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for investing your time with me. Hopefully, you found this conversation useful. Yeah, I say that almost every show, and the reason I want that is because I want the show to be useful. So if it is, make sure to leave a like, leave a rating wherever it is that you do that, whether it's on Google Play, Apple Podcast, or anything in between, Spotify. So that's it for me for today. If there are topics you want me to cover, let me know. This show is for you more than it is for me. I do learn a lot while I do these shows, which is why I keep doing them. But also, it's important for me that I'm helping others. That's it for me. With that, I'm signing off.